All right, Recovery First podcast. I'm your host, Mike Todd. I want to thank everybody that listens to these. These are recovery shares. I just there's just things that cross my mind and things that cross my heart. I want to talk just briefly about harm reduction, and I want to just look at it from a totally different angle. So when we talk about harm reduction, and there's even a debate on whether we should be doing this. Should we be giving naloxone out, and should we be giving clean syringes out? Are we enabling? And there seems to be a debate. And I'm not here to speak against anybody that thinks that way. Okay. I'm here to look at this from a very, very, hopefully a different point of view. And of course, harm reduction involves the giving out of naloxone, the life-saving drug naloxone. Of course, when somebody overdoses, this can be given to them either in an injection form or a nasal form, and then it reverses the overdose. The other thing is that is done in harm reduction is, of course, syringes are given out, clean syringes are given out. And what that does is it cuts down on the spread of disease dramatically. One of the things we've seen here in South Carolina is a spike especially in HIV and other transmittable diseases, because we do not have a syringe exchange law here, that we don't have syringe exchange on a mass scale. But I want to talk about I want to take a different approach, and I want to talk about what harm reduction does to a human being. A human being that may be making bad decisions, if you look at it that way. A human being that may be suffering from a treatable, preventable disease, substance use disorder. You may look at it that way. Also, there's mental illness a lot of times involved. But I want to look at it from a different point of view and just kind of stretch just a little bit. I want to talk about these people, these human beings, these people who have or had a mother, a father, maybe their sisters, brothers, maybe were good friends of some sort at one time, maybe productive members of society, maybe did some wonderful things before something happened. And so many of them in the grips of substance use disorder, in the grips of this disease. The thing about substance use disorder is such an isolating disease. It really is a disease of isolation. We always say that a lot about recovery is about connection. So let's talk about that for just 1 second. We have a person who, for whatever reason, has become displaced. Maybe they're living on the street. Maybe they're living wherever. They're isolated. Their life is revolved around the getting and using and ways and means to get more. And so that makes a very lonely existence, because obviously, if they don't get that fix, they're going to be very sick. And so they do things that are not so good, right? I mean, they do things, they maybe lie and they cheat and they steal and they hurt people in the grips of this disease, grips of a disease that really strikes people mentally. And so they do dastardly things. And so that leads, and I can remember that in the end of my addiction, how lonely I was, how there was just nobody. I would go from my car to hotel to wherever. And, I lived in what they call pillar to post, but I was very, very, very alone towards the end of my addiction. There was just, and don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming, okay? People just didn't know what to do. And I think that's what happens with these folks. But the point is, I want to talk about what happens when someone approaches a person who has been in the grips of addiction for years and comes up to them and says, "This is naloxone, and I want you to live. Here is a clean syringe because I don't want you to hurt yourself. Let me take a look at your arm and see if that's okay. Maybe you need medical attention, or let me clean that arm up for you and just kind of talk to you for a second." I want to tell you that can make all the difference in the world to this person who has probably not had a kind word spoken to them in years, has not had someone look at them in the eye and tell them, "I care enough about you that I want you to live and I don't want you to hurt yourself." And that, folks, is the heart of harm reduction. It's the heart of harm reduction. And that's why people are 5 times more likely to seek treatment and help when they have someone who is making contact with them in this way, fashion, and form. Another thing that we love to do is we love to give out socks, maybe a fresh, clean t-shirt, or maybe it's just some canned food, just to let them know that as human beings, we love them and we care about them. You know, I say that a lot, but that's why I'm here. I was getting back in my car one day. I was going to go to a meeting, but I chickened out, and I was getting back in my car, and I was fully convinced that the only way out for me was to kill myself. And then someone said, as they were standing out in the parking lot smoking a cigarette, "Where are you going?" And they engaged with me, and they asked if I would like for them to walk in with me. And when I walked in, someone gave me a hug, and someone brought me a coffee. Folks, that's harm reduction. I'm here today because harm reduction. That was October 21st, 1990. We got to do more of this. And we got to quit being so judgmental. And support the folks that are doing this, whether you agree with it or not. Proud of all these efforts in my community and all the wonderful people that do it. I think so much of them, and just wanted to take a different look at this, a different angle, a much different angle. Can we look at it from there and just ponder? Join us on Thursday, 7:05. We talked to some folks that do this work. And if you want to know more about it, maybe you don't understand. Maybe you think, oh man, they're enabling these people and they're making it worse and this, that, and the other. Why don't we kind of listen to what they do and support them? Because you know what? It may be, you never know, it may be your loved one that they're talking to. Appreciate everybody listening. It's Mike Todd, Recovery First Podcast.
So 30 years ago, when I first came into recovery, we didn't have recovery housing. If someone was seeking recovery and maybe coming to meetings and didn't have anywhere to live, we'd basically try to help them find somewhere to live. And that's how it all started. We all started basically living together and keeping each other accountable in recovery. Now, as the years have gone through, it's basically turned into an industry. And with that industry, there comes a lot of challenges. There's quite a bit of exploitation. You're dealing with a very, very vulnerable population. So that's the reason that we started the South Carolina Recovery Housing Association, to help providers, to help other recovery housing operators, to help mentor them, to advocate for them. And one of the things that we did right off the bat was we started getting naloxone into all recovery housing in South Carolina. We were very fortunate to get a grant from the Clinton Foundation and some help from the Recovery Advocacy Project and Challenges Inc. and Favor Greenville, and all of them combined have helped the South Carolina Recovery Housing Association to begin getting naloxone into all recovery housing in South Carolina and to help train their residents on the use of naloxone. We believe that is the first standard that we need to accomplish in South Carolina. Recovery housing operators are a very valuable resource to those suffering from substance use disorder in South Carolina, and we want to advocate for them, train them, mentor, and just work with them with whatever needs that they may have. If you want to get in touch with us, it's screcoveryhousing.org.